Hello everyone, my name's Katie, welcome back to my channel. For this video I'm going to be testing out the new pale shades of the Collection Lasting Perfection foundation and concealer. I've got them here. I ordered them off Boots and I don't know if you can see here, but there's been some kind of mess going on with this packaging. There's obviously been some kind of leak. I think it's the foundation that's leaked and it's gone the concealer as well. So Boots, what the hell are you doing? The collection recently brought out some new shades of their foundation and their concealers. Previously they had very little shade range, and let's be real here, the shade range still is not great. Obviously they've got some dodgy packaging here. It seems to be quite prone to leakage, but it's okay. I think we're getting it clean now. So about, I think a week ago or so, they posted on Instagram that they were bringing out some new shades. The concealer had 3 shades previously. They brought out 2 new shades, one paler shade and then one deeper shade. So it was only two new shades, so to be honest it's still really not a very good shade range at all. 5 shades is pretty unacceptable, let's be real here. Obviously I was still curious to try out the new pale shade because I have used the fair shade of the Lasting Perfection concealer before, and I always found that it was just a bit orangey and it oxidized, and I know a lot of other people have that problem as well. So I mean it's good that they've kind of listened and brought out a new pale shade, but then at the same time their shade range for people of colour is just so limited. It's kind of shouldn't they have maybe focused on that first before bringing out a paler shade, considering they literally have pretty much nothing for people of colour. I'm not actually sure what the shade range for the Lasting Perfection foundation was before, because I've not actually used this at all. I've always wanted to try it, but I've never used it before. I think there's 8 shades of it now. In fact, I will look that up in a sec, but I don't know how many new ones they brought out. Let me just check. Okay, so on their Instagram post, which is this one here for the foundation, you probably can't see that because of my lights, but yeah, it says here that they are launching 10 beautiful shades ranging from cool ivory to warm mahogany. So I don't know how many, it doesn't say how many shades they had before, but obviously they've got 10 now, which I mean is better than nothing, but I mean obviously it's an improvement, but I still think they could do more. And from the looks of the pictures it just seems to be very light skin to medium skin focused. There seems to be one dark shade and it's kind of a toffee colour. It's not really that dark, to be honest. So obviously yeah, it's great that they've added some stuff, but really, I mean this is the concealers here. It's I mean that dark shade, it's not even that dark. It looks really kind of orangey to me. I don't even know if that would work on a wide range of people, probably not. That aside, I'm gonna now get on to trying these out because I am pretty excited to see if the colours are good, and also I'm just kind of intrigued to see what this foundation is like because I've never used it before. And obviously I remember liking the formula of this Lasting Perfection one. I actually really like their colour correctors that are the same as these. Let me find them. Yeah, they have their colour correctors, so I've got the lemon shade and the lilac shade, which are these two here, and I love these. I think these are so good. So hopefully they're pretty similar in formula. I would suspect they are, considering they're literally the same thing. They're Lasting Perfection concealers. I'm just going to prime my face quickly. I'm going to use the number 7 Airbrush Away Pore Minimizing Primer. So I haven't used this in a while and I remember really liking it. My really late New Year's resolution is to start using primers more often because I have loads of them and I'm just not using them and it's such a waste. So I'm going to try my best from now on to wear them almost every day. If you can see patches of hair dye on my face, then well, that's because I've dyed my hair recently, so let's just ignore that. Let's just pretend that they don't exist. There's no patches of hair dye on my face. I guess we can see if these foundations and concealers will cover it. Okay, I'll just give that a little while to sit on my skin before we pile any product on, but in the meantime I'll have a bit of a swatch of these shades. So the shade that I've got is Cool Ivory 1, which I mean it's 1, so I'm assuming it's a light shade. I really hope it is. I don't think they would have a shade lighter than 1. But yeah, it's Cool Ivory, which already indicates that it's a cool toned foundation, which I believe it means it's more pinky, which isn't ideal for me because I'm actually more neutral to yellow. But let's just have a look at this. I did swatch it before, but I can't remember. It doesn't actually look too pinky. It actually looks a bit more neutral to yellow to me, but it also does look a little bit orange, so I don't know about that. That's what that shade looks like. I mean, it's a light shade, don't get me wrong, but I do see a bit of an orangey tone to it, so it's not 100% perfect match for me. Obviously we'll see what it's like on the skin and whether I would need a white mixer or not. But yeah, that is the shade. I'll do some comparisons in a little bit. Isn't that weird that it says it's cool, but because it definitely looks more yellowy to me. It doesn't look too pink toned, so I'm not sure why it's being described as cool. Okay, so let's swatch the Lasting Perfection Concealer in Extra Fair 0 is what this shade's called. This one also seems to be quite yellow, which again is really good for me. That's what that one looks like. I would say that one's probably a bit lighter than the foundation, which is good. It's not too orangey. I still think it can maybe be a little bit paler just for the extra fair people like myself, but to be honest I think that's pretty good colour wise. I definitely think the concealer is lighter than the foundation. I'm going to find some foundations and concealers that I can compare these to and just give some swatchings. Okay, so here are some comparisons. So right on the left hand side is the Collection foundation. Next to that is the Maybelline Superstay foundation in True Ivory. Next to that is the Tarte Rainforest Sea Water foundation in Porcelain, which is my closest colour match. Next to that is the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation in Light 42, and then at the end is the Milani foundation and concealer in 00A Porcelain. And yeah, as I said, the middle one, the Tarte one, is my closest match. So as you can see, the Collection foundation is a bit orangey in comparison, so it's not the best colour for me, but we're going to give it a go. Okay, so here are some shade comparisons of the concealer. The concealer is the one on the right hand side, nearest where my hand is. Next to it is the Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Fair. And then next to that is the Urban Decay Naked Concealer in the shade Fair Neutral. Next to that is the Kat Von D Cream Concealer, shade L1 Neutral. The end is the NYX Gotcha Covered Concealer in the shade Alabaster. So as you can see, the Collection one is still looking a bit orange in comparison. Definitely think it's oxidizing as well, but I would say that the shade is lighter than the foundation shade. Okay, so that's enough talking now. Let's get to trying this on my face. I think that primer has had enough time to sink in. So I'm just going straight in with the foundation, and I'm just going to use this sponge, which is mostly dry. It might have a little bit of moisture in it, but it's mostly a dry sponge. So I can't be bothered to get up and friggin' rinse it out. So I'm obviously going to use it on its own, even if the colour isn't right. I just want to, you know, test it. So if I look a bit orange, then whatever, it's just going to have to be for this video. So I'm just going to put this on all around my face. Ooh. Coverage of this actually does seem pretty good. I'm definitely not convinced of the colour though. Okay, so I've got about one layer of that on. The colour isn't terrible, like it's definitely a little bit off, and I just know that this would definitely oxidise, but I feel like it doesn't look too bad. But to be honest, I'd just put a bit of white mixer in with it. It wouldn't be that much of a problem. But I would say the coverage of this is more so medium coverage. I wouldn't say that this is full coverage, just because there's still a lot of things I can see poking through still. But it's definitely a decent coverage, and it sits on the skin pretty nicely. Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, I do on first impressions quite like how it looks on the skin. The coverage, yeah, as I've said, is medium. Finish is pretty nice. Yeah, colour's obviously a little bit off, but I mean, it looks okay. Let's try the concealer now. I'm going to go in with the concealer now, and I'm just going to use this under my eyes. On any blemishes around my face, I might try and cover some of the hair dye mess on my face as well. Probably on my nose as well, maybe a bit on my eyelids. I'm just going to probably end up putting it everywhere on my face. Okay, so I feel like this concealer is pretty much as good as I remember it being. It sits on the skin nicely, it's got pretty good coverage. Obviously it's not full coverage, I mean there's still things I can see, but I do like this concealer. It's definitely lighter than the foundation, which I appreciate, but I feel like overall I still just look a bit of an off colour, but To be honest, there's nothing that a bit of white mixer can't solve. I'd say overall I like how it looks. I feel like it does look ever so slightly cakey and a little bit heavy, but not too severely. But yeah, it definitely does have a little bit of a cakey look. It's definitely more of a matte finish, like I can see a little bit of oil coming through, but overall I'd say it looks pretty matte. Right, so I'm going to need to set this down, and I may as well use a collection product, so I'll use the collection Primed and Ready Invisible Setting Powder, and this one's quite light, so it might help to kind of lighten it up a little bit, at least I hope so. Just using this Gosh mineral brush to do my under eyes and probably my eyelids, and then I'll use the big brush to do the rest of my face. Too much powder on, but okay, that is what it looks like set. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Again, it does look a little bit heavy, but that's kind of also my fault because I put too much powder on, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good base. Let's just ignore the colouring. So I'm just gonna do the rest of my makeup and we'll see what it looks like with the rest of my makeup done. Okay, so that's the rest of my makeup done. So overall, what are my opinions of this foundation and concealer? I would say I prefer the concealer to the foundation. I feel the shade is a little bit lighter. I feel I'd probably use this a bit more. I will continue to use this foundation, and I'll probably try mixing it with some other foundations and obviously with some white mixer, because I don't know if you'll be able to see on the camera, but the colour is definitely off. I definitely do look a bit orangey up here in comparison to my neck. It's not like massively bad, like I've definitely had more orange foundations than this, definitely. It's not terrible, but this is definitely something I'd want to use a white mixer with. In terms of the quality of the foundation itself, it gives like a medium coverage. The finish is pretty nice, but I would say it's a little bit cakey and a little bit heavy looking on the skin, so it's not my favourite foundation ever, but I think it's got potential if I do mix it with some other things, so not giving up. I do wish the shade was even lighter. I would say the concealer is definitely paler than the one before. I don't know, I still feel like it could be even lighter just because my skin tone is just ridiculously pale. But yeah, I would be interested to see what this is like on some other foundations that are already kind of like the same as my face, because obviously sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what the colour looks like when you're putting it over the top of a foundation that's already like too dark for you. You can't really actually tell what the colour's like by itself. So I'm gonna try this out with some paler foundations underneath. But I think this could be onto something. This could be onto something. So overall, that is my opinions on the Lasting Perfection concealer and foundation, the new shades. Obviously, there's still a lot of issues with the shade range, and not just this foundation, and a lot of drugstore foundations. Obviously, you've got brands like Makeup Revolution that are doing a really good job. Their concealer's got... okay. Their concealer's got 18 shades, and I believe they've released 6 more, so now they're on 25, so I really want to try one of their concealers soon. But yeah, let's hope that more drugstore brands, and obviously high-end brands seem to be having problems as well, can like catch on to that. But yeah, overall, that is how the foundation and concealer turned out. It doesn't look too bad. And yeah, so I'll see you in my next video. Bye.